In today's episode, I'm sitting down with someone who's actually been a huge part of my own journey, both as a mentor and as a friend, Meredith Bauman. She's a certified health and nutrition coach, health mindset coach, and the lead instructor at the Nutrition Coaching Academy. But honestly, what she brings to the table is so much more than her credentials. We had such a real conversation about the pressure to be perfect, especially when it comes to our health goals. We unpacked what it means to live in the messy middle, that space between starting something and getting it just right, and why so many of us get stuck in that perfectionist or all or nothing box and sometimes give up just because we didn't do it perfect. And Meredith shares some really key points on why messy action is actually the secret weapon, on how to shift our all or nothing thinking, and how we can think of failure as actually part of the process. There's a mixture of mindset shifts, coaching gold, and honestly just a real talk between two women who are experiencing a lot and who have seen a lot of what can truly help people break out of this trap of perfection, not just in coaching, but in life too. So if you've ever found yourself just like waiting for the perfect time, the perfect plan, or the perfect whatever, then this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Well, let's jump in. Thanks, Meredith, for joining us today. I'm super excited to have this guest on my podcast today. We found each other through the coaching certification that I actually took for my nutrition coaching. So today I'm joined by Meredith Bauman, certified nutrition and health mindset coach, lead instructor of the Nutrition Coaching Academy, longtime RMT, community volunteer, mom of Tenley, wife of a farmer, and fellow lover of scary stories and chocolate. The list goes on. You're like a Wonder Woman. I freaking love it. So inspirational. You can find her at the Everyday Health Coach on Instagram, or you can find her on Facebook. So let's dive in, Meredith. How did your whole journey with nutrition coaching begin?
I feel like it's been a long time already. Actually, I was thinking back to it. I think it's been about a decade that I've been doing nutrition coaching already, which is a long time. I have been an RMT, as you said, for about 19 years now. I just celebrated 19 years. And I always knew I wanted to do something more with expanding into health and wellness. And so that's why when I opened my own business up where I live now, I really wanted to get into fitness and potentially into nutrition. I had always been somebody who carried extra weight on me as a kid and a teenager. And when I was about 20 years old, I went through my own transformation, to be able to say journey, quote unquote, and changed the way that I was eating. That was a big part of it. But I also did things how I wouldn't do them now because you don't know what you don't know. And so I lost 60 pounds rather quickly, losing a lot of muscle mass in the process, which then prompted me into wanting to put muscle back on after I started to learn more about fitness and nutrition in a different capacity. I did a bodybuilding competition about 11 years ago, which had me working with a coach one on one, which is something I had never done before that point. And I learned about macronutrients and calories, and specifically how those things could really change my body, along with doing some really pointed training that I was doing. But then after I did that competition, I didn't know how to find a balance and a middle ground again with how I was eating. And it was felt very much like I was either on plan or I was off plan, which we hear that lots with our clients often. And I really struggled with feeling like I was never doing enough and that my body had changed again after being the leanest it had ever been in my life to then looking like normal again. But it didn't feel like I didn't feel good in my body at that point. So it was a journey for me of figuring out, how do I need to eat and how do I need to exercise so that I can sustain this, because I love it and I was passionate about it. Other people started to see what I had done and how I had transformed my body in different ways. And they were always asking me for guidance and help and questions. And so naturally, it was like, I can help other people to do this. And I decided to take some nutrition certifications and be able to then provide actual nutrition coaching for people. So it was really that catalyst of kind of my own story leading up to that point. And then you go through different things in life too, where I had a baby. And so my body changed again. And so just this evolution of figuring out how to eat and exercise for me and in a way that felt enjoyable and sustainable without extremes. So that's very much how I coach people is finding ways of doing this so that you can have fun with it and enjoy the process while being a healthier version of yourself.
Totally. And I think it's so important to have that like experience and like not saying that if someone was a nutrition coach, I feel like most coaches have gone through a process themselves and like the ones that like make the most impact in my perspective are like the ones who have gone through these like stories of like trying things on their own and then finding their own coach that kind of like I've had multiple coaches in my life and
Mhm.
there's ones that were helpful and maybe not so helpful and like
Mhm.
you don't like you said you don't know what you don't know and it's one of those things that you kind of have to go through it to see what works, what doesn't work, what feels good, and sometimes like you crash and burn a little like that's kind of part of the
Mhm.
process. And I think a lot of us think that when we're trying to hit a goal that like it's all up, it's just up and we're going to go and hit our goal. It's either we're going from where we're at straight to the top, and like the reality is like you're going to take a few steps up and you might fall a couple steps back. Like where was one of those moments for you that it kind of felt like a stumble back, if you had any?
Well, I think there was definitely a few of those. I think that the bodybuilding thing was definitely that catalyst where there's people that will do a bodybuilding competition and then they just continue. That's just like their lifestyle. They love it. They continue on, they do shows, and then they have their quote unquote bulking seasons and then their cut seasons and that sort of thing. And I think for me, that was probably one of those ones. I think back to a few years ago where I felt like I was in a really good place and then I got an injury and I sprained my shoulder and I couldn't do the training and exercise that I was used to doing. And if anyone's ever gone through an injury before, those are hard to navigate, not just physically, but like the mentally, especially if you're somebody who really likes fitness. I love moving my body. Like it is a part of my everyday life. I look forward to it. I need to do it. So that's something that I've grown to love. But when that's taken away, you feel like a part of you, part of your identity almost is like all of a sudden gone and missing. And so I really struggled with that particular year. And I gained probably, a solid 10 pounds of body fat, I would say. And I was like, I am not happy with how my body feels, well, how my clothes fit, what it looks like. I felt uncomfortable. And you go through as a coach, a lot of times, other coaches that might be listening to this, where feelings where you're like, who am I to be helping someone when I have like fallen off the quote unquote wagon? And I what am I going to do? But I think the biggest thing is that you eventually figure out how to pick yourself up and you go back to, okay, I actually know what I need to do. I need to do a reset and I need to figure out how to get back to the foundational things and the basics. And as you said, you've worked with lots of coaches, so have I. And especially when there's times in your life where you are struggling to feel like you have that motivation to want to continue, or you're like, "Ah, where am I even going to get started?" Sometimes having additional support in that area can be the thing that you need, the catalyst that you need to pick yourself up and make a plan of action to continue forward. So that was definitely a few years ago. I had that moment. And I think since then too, you had mentioned too, even of like when mindset things started to come into play for me. I think that was probably one of those times where it was about 3 years ago where I was like, I got to get my head in a different place. I got to figure out the self-talk that's going on inside of me right now and think about things a little bit differently so that I can continue to push forward with this because these things are important to me and it's stuff that I really value.
Yeah, and I think it can feel like such a trap when you end up in a place where you're like, how did I get here? Like I think that's a lot of questions that people ask themselves, like, how did I get here? When the reality is like, yeah, your life shifted and you had to shift into a direction that you don't know. Like it's like
Mhm.
on either side of it of like making change to feel better is an unknown. So it's like it's uncomfortable and we have to manage that. But also like when we're like when that routine and that normal turns to the other side and then we have to navigate that. It's like that's unknown and that's uncomfortable. And like it starts to feel like messy, right? Our mindset
Mhm.
starts to go like, where am I in all of this? Like, how can I still show up for myself? Am I showing up for myself? Is it even worth showing up? Like, you start to have those moments. And like, I've had moments like that too. And I think no one really talks about these moments of like the struggle, right? It's like, I was in a very depressive state, like, and I was coaching people at the same time. And those same thoughts, like, who am I to coach people
Mhm.
while I'm struggling? Like, I'm on the struggle bus and realizing that, we're all in our on our own journey. And as long as we're looking for that support, as long as we like can lean on some support and realize like it's not like this forever and
Mhm.
that's not the way we're going to be. If we want change, we can make change. And
Yep.
so how do you help clients navigate that feeling of like, oh, like this is where I'm at. I'm kind of just in the mess of it all. How do I get out of this? Like, how do you help navigate clients through that?
Yeah, something I've been working with clients on, I think a lot is like going back to values. That has been like a big one of like, what are your personal beliefs and what are your personal values around this? Because we can often have like an external motivation. We know that, oh, I got a wedding coming up where I'm a bridesmaid and I want to look really good in my bridesmaid dress and in those photos. That can be an external motivator for people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if someone's only relying on external motivations all the time, it only takes you so far. Something that one of my mentors said to me recently that has stuck is, and this is a question I like to ask my clients now too, is if the entire world was blind and no one can see what you look like, would you still show up for yourself every day to take care of you? From
Wow.
the inside out, because it should be about this intrinsic motivation of tapping into, why do I get up at I don't want to get up at 5:15 when my alarm goes off in the mornings. I don't. Why do I do that? Why have I become a morning person or figure out a way to do that? It's because I value First of all, I value my time alone. I'm a mom. I got a 7-year-old. And as soon as she is awake in the morning and the world wakes up and my phone starts going off, I no longer have that time and energy for me. So to set the tone for my day, I get up before the world wakes up and my house wakes up, and I take that hour, hour and a half for myself in the morning to do my training, to get my breakfast started, to get my head in the right place. I also value my fitness. And sometimes if I don't do my fitness in the morning, the day gets away from me and then I don't have the energy to do it in the evening. And so that's how I have figured out how I can check that box for myself, because all of that then sets me up to be successful for the rest of my day. So when I go into my intrinsic motivation of those things that are important, it's also showing my daughter, leading by example, that you should be putting time and energy into you to take care of you, that you don't need to be the martyr as a mom, because I don't want her to grow up to think that she needs to put her whole self aside for her partner, for her kids, for whoever else is in her world, that she's got to take care of her. So all like that's the stuff that drives me to want to continue to do the hard things that I don't always want to do, because we're not going to always want to do that stuff. We don't want to have to get up. We don't want to work out. We don't want to eat our damn stupid protein and eat our fiber. Like nobody really wants to have to do that all the time, but we do it because there's a reason why. We have a belief, we have values and beliefs that are important to us, and getting clients to tap into that side of it can be the game changer that they need, instead of just, I want to lose 20 pounds because I want to look good. Again, nothing wrong with that, but it has to be a little bit more than that so that you continue to do the things when the going gets tough.
Yeah, and it's gonna get tough. Like, that's,
Yep.
like, inevitable. I think that's something that sometimes we think, like, "Oh, I'm gonna work on bettering myself. I'm gonna focus on giving back to myself. Like, everything's just gonna be, like, hunky dory," right? Like, it's like, no, there's gonna be tough times, and if you can learn and I think a lot of things, like, with clients that I've worked with is, like, they'll be like, "Oh, like I have this coming up. It's actually going to be such a busy, like summer's coming up. It's going to be so busy. Like I don't even know how I'm going to be able to even focus on my nutrition or like my health." And the reality is like, well, that's where we kind of want to dig in a little bit more is like when it is tough, because that's going to be inevitable. Every year you're going to go through something. Every month there might be something, right? Like you kind of want to lean into the mess of it all so that you can truly learn how to prioritize yourself in
Mhm.
it. Because if you don't learn how to do it in it and you wait for this like bright and shiny time that you can learn how to figure it all out, then when you hit the messy part and the muck of it all, you're stuck. You're just like,
Yeah.
and now I'm stuck again. And then you feel like it's hard to get out of when you can just set yourself up to learn some things in the muck of it all and be like, okay, like it might not look perfect. It might look like having a bit of maintenance with weight. If you're trying to lose weight, maybe you're just like sit in maintenance for a while, or maybe you're like, I'm going to just not go to the gym 5 times a week. I'm going to go twice a week and I'm going to be okay with that for now. Right. Like
Yeah.
acceptance of things not looking the exact same all of the time, I think is something that helps you grow even through those moments of
Mhm.
what do I do now? So
Yeah.
like I think also the fear of messing up can be kind of paralyzing too, of like not doing everything perfect. So do you see that a lot in clients is like if they don't do something perfectly, it's kind of like freezes them a little bit. Have you seen that?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. That comes down to expectations we have on ourselves.
Mhm.
And it can be an expectation that's coming from like internally. You're just thinking like, I should be able to do this. Why can't I do this? This is easy for my friend Danny, because she can do it, so like I should be able to do it too. But what one's person's responsibilities are, their schedule, their lifestyle is not the same as your friends, even though it might look that way from the outside, it might look similar, you're comparing it to. But we have these expectations of, well, someone else did that, I should be able to do it. I did that when I was 22 years old, I should be able to do it again. But coming from an almost 40-year-old, you can't do the same things that you did when you're 20. I didn't have a kid when I was 20. I didn't have the same responsibilities, the same, lifestyle. And you have to be able to adapt your expectations to where you're currently at right now. And if you hold yourself to the super high standard of, I should be able to do all of these things. When we don't get there, then we're like, well, I failed at it because I should have been able to do this and this and this and this and this. And one thing that I talk with my clients about is there's one thing about having boxes you want to check off. I say that all the time. We're working on checking off these like foundational basics of like the boxes when it comes to the big rocks of nutrition and fitness and that sort of thing. But it's not about checking off every single box every single day. It is
Mhm.
the effort you put towards trying to check off the boxes.
Yeah.
And if you get close to all of them, you're in a much better place than saying, I can't check off that box, so F it. I'm not even going to bother trying. That is where that all or nothing mindset comes into play for people and where they set themselves up to fail. Because instead, you could say, here's some non negotiables, here's the plan, but knowing that the plan can pivot at any moment, you get to choose and decide. And even as a nutrition coach, we know we can have like, oh, I'm going to give you some suggestions. Are you open to that? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's what this could look like. How does that feel for you? Do you think that that's possible? On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to make that happen? I want my clients to be saying, yeah, that makes sense for me this week. And from one week to the next, it could look different, and that's okay. Maybe one week you do get to the gym 5 times, and the next week you get 2 times. Just because you didn't go 5 times doesn't mean you failed. Does it? It doesn't take away the times you went 2 times, and you can always adjust that depending on what you want that week to look like, what you have going on in that moment. And when we can adapt and we can change these expectations of what this process is supposed to look like, then it just looks like how it is meant to look like for you and your particular situation and story and journey. So that is a big part of it, is that the failing thing is like we set ourselves up to fail a lot of times because it's just like that's an unachievable expectation. And also, what's wrong with failing at something? You know what failing means is that you tried it. And what do we do when we fail? We say, huh, that didn't quite go as I had planned. I'm going to reflect on that and look at what could I do differently the next time. I'm going to change a couple of things. I'm going to try a different strategy and I'm going to tackle that again. And I might feel like I mess up and maybe I quote unquote fail again, but I've now learned a bunch of things about myself and the process. And you take all that information and that knowledge and those experiences and you get to use that again and again because you don't run out of opportunities to try. Clients will say, well, I tried to lose weight. Like, I've worked with a coach before and I tried 3 times and I did these things. And then I'm like, okay, so we try 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. You get to do it as many times as you need to. And it's not that you start over. People are like, oh, I don't want to start over again. I don't want to start again. You are picking things back up where you dropped them. You get to just start again from where you are right now. You don't have to start over because no one's taking away that knowledge and experience that you gained. You just get to be like, huh, dropped some habits. That kind of sucks. I know what I need to do. I just need to pick those back up again. Here's the game plan of how I'm going to execute those habits this time, and you're always going to be dropping things. You're going to be dropping them, pick them up, drop them, pick them up. It's like following your toddler around your house, picking up after them constantly. They're going through your Tupperware drawer and throwing everything out, and you're putting it back in. You don't just leave the Tupperware on your floor of your kitchen and be like, well, that it's just staying there now. You
Yeah.
don't. You pick it back up and you put it away, and you know that you're probably going to be cleaning up again for the rest of your life. You're going to
Yeah.
just accept
Yeah.
that you're going to be cleaning up after your kids for forever. And that's how I'm thinking about nutrition wise is like, I'm just picking things back up again and trying again over and over and over. And we don't fail when we do that.
Yeah. And realizing that, like, eventually you might not have to pick up some things. They might just be in their nice spot now. And for when
Yeah.
you need them, you can pick the, like, you'll use them when you need them. They might not fall
Hmm.
on the floor anymore. You might just be like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to use this when I need it.
And then put it back.
Yeah, and so we learn different systems, different habits that work for us. And like you said, like, it's about each individual where they're at and figuring out a plan that makes sense for them to pivot in a way that's like, okay, this week, like, and I get so like, I guess I get frustrated with the word perfect because like why
Right.
does it even exist in a way? Like, where show me perfect. Show me
Right.
perfect. Because
Hmm.
ask that person who you think is perfect what their flaws are, they'll give you a laundry list of it, right? So like
Hmm.
when you think about what are we really trying to be perfect with, because no one's doing that. And I think we, again, like holding that high standard is like, it's impossible.
Yep.
Perfect is impossible. And that feels sometimes like kind of disheartening, but at the same time, it should be encouraging because it's like, oh, I can still make huge progress even without being perfect, right? Like
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like that's so cool to think like I don't even have to give 100%, I can still make change. Like that should excite people instead of being like I didn't hit 100%, I fucked up. It's like no, you had you didn't go from you didn't do zero, you did even 50%. And that's even
Right.
right. And like that's the middle where we kind
Hmm.
of avoid celebrating. And like when someone finally realizes that they've like succeeded even without the perfection lens and like doing things kind of like half-assed as you would call them and still see progress, like what does that look like for them? Like what is that, like what are they realizing when they're going through that process of like I just was able to do it, see progress, and not have to like make it perfect? Like what are some things that people are kind of like aha about?
Yeah, that's talking about like the perfection. I'm just gonna go back there for one
Yeah.
second. Is like it's such a based on your own perception of it. And I
Mhm.
agree with you. I really don't think I say all the time, I'm like, perfect doesn't exist. I don't know why we're holding that to any kind of standard because it also is like my idea of something being close to perfect is going to be different than somebody else's. And so we could argue on that anyways of like what that perfection looks like. But like often as a coach, like my job is to shine a light on somebody's strengths and not necessarily pointing out somebody's weaknesses, but looking at their strengths. And I often go back to reminding my clients to collect evidence that supports the fact that they are capable of doing the things. Like somebody will do a check-in and it's like, what are your successes this week? Like share some non-scale victories with me. And they're like, I don't know. I don't even know if like there's any. And like, they'll list a few things and then I'm like, okay, but wait. First of all, you checked in with me, even though you didn't want to. So that's a win right there. And let me take a look at your, food log. Like you nailed your protein target. That's not easy to do. That's amazing. Or you increased your fiber from 10 grams a day up to 15 on average. That's a win right there. Clients don't always see the wins that are right in front of them. And so they don't realize that they're living in this messy middle and making progress, because to them, progress is like I'm either at 100 or nothing. That's again the all or nothing thing. So as coaches, it's our job to make sure that we highlight the areas that are wins that our clients aren't necessarily seeing. But when the aha moment happens, when they start to realize like, you know what, I didn't track on Saturday, and I went out, I had a wedding I went to, and I didn't know exactly what I was eating for my macros, but I made some better choices and I made some different choices that I wouldn't normally make, and I'm really proud of myself for that. And then I happened to step on the scale on Monday morning, even though I was scared because I was off plan, but they weren't, because the plan was for them to not actually track their food that day and to try to just practice some of these habits and behaviors. And they noticed that the scale didn't jump up and they didn't gain a bunch of weight because they didn't track their food, or because they didn't, they had a dessert and a glass of wine, and then they're realizing, wait, that I didn't mess that up. Like I didn't actually wreck my progress by like having one evening where I was eating like a normal person who was in control and being intentional with my choices. The light bulbs start to go off and you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. You can do this. So it's that consistency piece where it's like you can still live life and enjoy those things because you didn't go off the rails, because you didn't say, well, this isn't going to look like the other days of the week, so I messed up. No, the plan was to have it look different than the rest of the week, but with some intention and mindfulness and talking about how to navigate that situation. That's why we step in as coaches, to help people see they can do things a little differently and that it doesn't wreck all their progress, their hard work. So that's, I think, often what that looks like is celebrating the small wins, collecting evidence to support your capability, and like, yeah, having those aha moments, connecting the dots for our clients throughout that process.
Yeah, and really, like, having those moments build their confidence and their
Hmm.
trust in themselves, that they are learning new things, that they are implementing these things, that they are seeing change, and a lot of it is in our mind. Like, our mind,
Yep.
as soon as our mindset changes, that's where a lot of the physical can come after, right? Like, I feel like
Hmm.
even for my coaching, it's like a lot of the blocks are the mental blocks of that perfectionism, and, like, I need to, like, go all in, I need to be 100%, and if I'm not, then I'm done, I'm done, I'm failing, I'm tapped out, right? So, it's like, it also building that confidence allows them to not see those moments of just, like, going and enjoying life in a different way than their normal routine is, and not seen as a setback and creating a spiral effect. It's more like, cool, I understand exactly what just happened. I was in control. It was a part of the plan, so I feel confident in that, and I could just move forward versus having it be the all or nothing spiral, which is, oh, now I have to go do X to try and make up for this, or, trying to just like beat ourselves up and go the other direction of like throw everything away and not try to do anything, right? So it's like, as a coach, it's like you said, it's so important to highlight those moments where it might not look like this fancy, flashy win, like scale numbers changing. But like when someone can say, like, I didn't go wild on like ice cream or cookies or chips because I had a bad moment on the weekend and thought I'm just going to throw it all away and just like It's like
Mhm.
I felt in control. I felt like I could eat those foods without spiraling, and having that control is like huge confidence builder, which I think is like the main piece of how someone can go from where they're at to where they want to be, is like building that confidence over time, and like being confident to be able to deal with any situation that comes up, right? And like
Yep.
that's kind of the blocker of the all or nothing, is like building your confidence so that the all or nothing doesn't creep in and create this like kind of dark world that doesn't even really
Mhm.
need to exist, right? So,
Yep.
like, what are some of the favorite reframes that you walk clients through and say like, "Hey, like this is how we can stack habits," or this is like a prompt that you can use if you do go down the spiral. Like, what are some of the tools that you use with clients to help them navigate that?
Yeah. I want to say too, with the thing you mentioned with trusting yourself, I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's so smart of getting clients to work on giving themselves opportunities to experiment with different strategies and trusting themselves that they can do it. And it's also okay to trust themselves, of just like giving themselves that opportunity, be like, it's okay, like permission to mess up as well. And that you trust yourself that you know what you need to do to get back to what you were doing previously that was working. I think that's a big part of it. And as clients start to trust themselves and allow themselves those different opportunities, that's where like evolution and growth really happens. As for your question, okay, sorry, recap that again. You said, oh, reframing. That's what you said. I went off course. Reframing, like some things that you can say to clients if they are finding that they're feeling a little stuck. That's what you had said.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, like, one thing that we hear lots is people doing that, like, I'll start again on Monday mentality. And it's, again, I'm totally all for the reset, like, refocus, reset as many times as you need. But we have to do something in regards to changing the things. You can't just expect to restart and continue the same patterns and behaviors that you were doing before, because you will just get back to, I'll restart again Monday. I'll restart again Monday. And then you're just like, oh, I was quote unquote good on during the week, and then they tell themselves they were bad on the weekend, and so they need to be good again on Monday. And if someone's just listening to me, I use quotations a lot because I do not believe, first of all, there's any good or bad foods, and also we aren't bad people for eating particular foods. I'm very big on that. So having the language around talking about ourselves that way is really, that's something we have to highlight as coaches and point out, and then work on that, because that is a mindset thing too. So that's maybe one of them, is some of our self-talk that we will have with ourselves, I think is a big piece of it. But going to like changing things, I work a lot with my clients on what we call implementation intentions, or it'll be called if then planning. So it's like, all right, this happened this week. You didn't feel like things went as well as you wanted them to. You want to reset on Monday. What are the goals for this week? So, like, if we're talking about checking off boxes, what does that look like? But as you mentioned before, you have to anticipate the challenges that are inevitable. They are going to come. There are going to be roadblocks. Something is going to throw you off. Your kid is going to get sick and all of a sudden be home with you, and your whole day got just like demolished with your plan. So that can be something that happens, right? You could have the best intentions and you tracked your food and you packed your lunch and you left the house and you forgot your lunch at home. And now you're at the office and you're like, what do I do because I forgot my lunch? Those things happen to us all the time. And instead of being like, oh, this sucks, I forgot my lunch, there's nothing I can do to stay on plan. If you can anticipate those things can happen, you can have backup plans and strategies. So that's what we call with the if then planning. It's like, if this happens, then I will do this thing. That
Mhm.
could even be, we have the best intentions of doing the weekend differently. So the weekends become a lot of clients' week ends, where maybe their food prep has ran out. They haven't planned for the weekend because they're just like, oh, I'm going to be home, so I can just cook whenever. That's actually probably the worst plan, because then people are left to just like winging it. And we know that that doesn't necessarily work all the time. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm not going to drink any alcohol, but now I'm visiting my friend Danny and she wants me to drink a bottle of wine with her. So then it's like, but I already decided I wasn't going to drink alcohol this weekend. So then the plan is if Danny says these things to me to try to get me to drink wine, here's what my response will be. When you have a plan already in place, when the moment happens, there's not this anxious panic that happens a lot of times with clients and even with myself of like, oh my goodness, like now what do I do? Because I want to have fun with Danny and I want to have a girls' night and have a good time, but I said I wasn't going to drink. And if I drink, I'm off plan. But then it's like, oh, I already know what I'm going to say to Danny because I was anticipating that she likes to drink wine with me. So this is what I'm going to say. So you're not caught in the moment of that, like, anxious panic. Instead, you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And you might have a plan B, C, D. You might not ever use them, but that's okay. But if it ever does come up, you're so much more prepared to tackle it differently than you would have the previous times because you've anticipated that this stuff could throw you off. And it's going to. It's easy to stay on plan when life is hunky dory and nothing ever gets thrown at us. That's not life. That's we're talking about taking messy action and life being messy. It is all the time, even for your coaches, anyone listening to this. We got to navigate this stuff too. But often then we have other strategies and plans in place and it allows us to be able to get through those situations a little bit easier. So if you do some of that implementation intentions, you can find that then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that came up again, but I had a plan for it. And so I actually got through it differently than I did the previous week. Boom, there's the win. We highlight it, we take it, we celebrate it, and then we continue to build upon those things so that starting fresh on Monday just continues to evolve and looks a little bit different every single week. And that is growth. That is moving us along the progression line. And it might look really small, but those small wins and those small progresses add up over time. And that's a big part of the coaching is that we have these unrealistic timeframes for ourselves a lot of times too when we talk about expectations. So allowing yourself that ability to give yourself time to work through this stuff because many people are going through it that have been stuck for years that have had past history of dieting, failing, starting again, and that's so deep rooted in them that it's going to take time to undo some of these mindsets and patterns and habits and create new ones. And you got to give yourself a lot of kindness and compassion and grace throughout the process. That's really the only way through it.
Yeah, 100%. Ooh, that's like giving me chills, like, because it really is the key to growth, not just for, health goals, but for for you to truly feel confident day to day, like for you to actually set boundaries and say, this is exactly how I'm going to deal with this situation when it comes up. And like that isn't just creating a strong human in your body, but in your mind, which is so key in being
Mhm.
just like your overall healthiest self. So, oh,
Yep.
this conversation, I feel like is just what so many people need to hear. And if you guys are listening to this, like reach out to us on Instagram and like send us a message on like what hit the most for you and like what was like maybe an aha moment. Like maybe you're struggling with perfectionism and you're thinking, man, like I just need to figure out a way to get through this, or this was something that just hit really hard for me. And I realized that that's me. Like, message us because we want to talk with you about those things because we mess up. We get in
Mhm.
the mess of it all. So, as a fun little like close out for our chat here today, Meredith, I kind of want to go through a little bit of a rapid fire, including some of the messy stuff. So, I want to hear some of your thoughts on these fun little questions. So, first things
Perfect.
first, what's one food you could eat every single day if you could?
Are we talking that I could eat and I won't get sick of, or that I could eat and have no repercussions for eating it every day?
I mean, both.
Okay.
Or like what thing
Okay.
you would never get sick of.
I eat eggs and egg whites every single day. That is like I do not falter unless I run out of them and don't have anything on backup. But egg and egg whites are a go-to of mine. There's so many ways they're versatile, so many ways that you can include them and eat them. So That's probably one. And if it was a food that I wouldn't have to worry about health wise or like calories or things like that, I always say all the time, I'm like chocolate and French fries with ketchup.
Ooh, yeah.
That's those are the two. Yeah, I'm happy girl if I have those two things.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Honestly, I'm this exact same thing. Like Costco egg whites are
Yep.
they're essential. Like if I don't have them in my fridge, I'm a little lost.
Yeah.
So that
Pro tip on that too, if anyone's listening, buy the Costco egg whites, freeze them. I live in the middle of nowhere. They freeze and thaw very well. So just take them out, put them in your fridge or put them in some cold water, and then you can stock up on them and you never actually have to run out. You can just have a whole bunch in your freezer.
yeah, that's a expert tip right there. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another question, rapid fire. What's your favorite way to move your body right now?
Resistance training all day long. I work out in my living room 90% of the time. Yes, absolutely. Lifting weights. I'm doing a build program right now. And also because the weather is getting nice and it's summertime, walking outside with my weighted vest in the sunshine.
Amazing. Yeah, nothing like getting a tan on. Just that
Yes.
weighted vest tan is just like
Right?
I know it's like honestly, it's probably the most badass tan you can have. So I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, amazing. I think resistance training is something that especially as women we need to do a lot more of just to like help our bodies be overall healthy. But yeah, I love my good weighted vest walks too. So last rapid fire question. What's one messy moment that you're proud of lately?
Ooh, okay. So this is just being really real. I'm being a really real human being right now. But I was at a golf tournament recently, and it was one that I look forward to every year. And I allowed myself to have more adult beverages than I normally do because I really don't actually drink that much alcohol anymore. I've cut back a lot, but I had decided my plan pivoted and changed, and I allowed myself to have more of those drinks. I just knew that that was going to happen, and I was like, I'm totally okay with this. I also knew I wasn't going to be able to control the food because the food was provided. I packed some snacks for the golf course and did that, but it was like, this day is not going to look great at all. Like, this is not like a depiction of like what my normal is. But as much as it was like, if someone would look at that and maybe say, well, you're a nutrition coach and you're eating and you're drinking and whatever, that, how is that healthy? Again, I'm a human being and I do those things sometimes. But the next day, I stayed overnight at a friend's. Her and I were having coffee in the morning, and we had made a plan of like, we were pounding waters back. We went to bed at a decent time, controlled certain elements of the day. And the next morning, her husband had come in from walking the dog, and he says, how are you girls feeling this morning? Anticipating us to be like, not feeling great. And we looked at each other and we literally high-fived each other across the island. And we're like, we feel great. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, no, no lie at all. Because I was like, that could have went way far on the extreme in the other direction. Did it look like a typical day or weekend day for me? No, absolutely not. Was it great for nutrition? No, absolutely not. Could it have been way worse? Absolutely. Was I proud of myself still for making some better choices than I could have made? Yes, I was, because it ended up still being in the end a win, where the next day we had protein pancakes for breakfast with fruit and boiled eggs, egg whites, and had our coffees. And I ended up going for a 60-minute walk later that day and doing like all my normal things. And so that day didn't derail me. It didn't throw me off. I didn't go into a spiral from it. It looked different, but I made some better choices, and it was messy and imperfect, but there were some wins amongst that day.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Yeah, and something for me lately, just to like be real, right? Because like, yeah, we're nutrition coaches, but we're like human. Like the one night I had chicken thawing, like it was thawed, it was ready to be cooked, it was in the sink, it was good to go. Like I was making chicken for supper, and like I was like, cool, like I'm gonna prep this chicken. We're gonna have it for lunch tomorrow as well. And so dinner time comes along. And my boyfriend had just he had an injury with his back. So like I was kind of tending to him and making sure all the house chores were done. And so at supper time comes, I'm like, I really don't want to cook. I couldn't even be bothered. I was like, I cannot. And so I turned to my boyfriend and go, what should we do for supper? What should we order? And he's like, pizza's like perfect. Like I was just like, I don't care. Like I'm gonna have pizza. And I ordered a side of chicken wings with that. And like I was like, I'm gonna be okay with the fact that like this isn't the dinner that I expected to make because I prepped it. Like I had the food there. It's ready to be cooked. I just I was like, you know what? It is what it is. And so I made it the next day, right? I pushed the
Yeah.
chicken to the next day and I was like, okay, cool. Like I know that it's still there. I can still make it for another day and enjoy it. And it was delicious. But like realizing I was like, I'm gonna have the pizza. I'm gonna let the guys have all the leftovers. I'm just gonna get right back to my like prepping the foods that I know help me feel better.
Mhm.
And I was like, cool. Like, and they were having beers. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have my dummy beers, as like I call them, like my point fives, Coronas.
Yep.
Like you guys have like I'm dedicated to not drinking as much right now, and like I'll have my pizza and my beer, but the non-alcoholic
Yep.
version and have a fizzy water and I was happy as can be. So it's like, yeah, like having the reality of like, yeah, you can make those like they feel less ideal, right? But like in the
Mhm.
moment, like just go through it, do the best you can and don't be hard on yourself for it because that's life, right? So
Yeah.
it's like so I guess like what would be your final takeaway if like someone's stuck in that perfectionism box, so that all or nothing box, like what would you say to them right now?
Ooh. Um, oh man, there's so many things that I think you could say. Like say to them to for what? Give them comfort, have them take action. Like what are we
Yeah.
thinking? What
Yeah.
direction
Like
here?
if they're feeling stuck, how could we
Mhm.
get them to feel like maybe they're taking like that one foot out of the muddy boot and like take that next step
Mm.
kind of thing? Like
Yeah.
in my mind, I just go like, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay.
Mhm.
Like that first step might be a little like when you're trying to get unstuck from rubber boots in the mud, like the first step, if you take your foot out of the
Yeah.
boot, it's muddy, like you're stepping into the mud, but like you
Mhm.
can't get out of the mud until you get through it, right? So like
Yeah.
how would you kind of tell them to like help them get unstuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that comes down to like what is even one thing that you can do this week that would be what we say like the low hanging fruit. Like what would be one thing that would make you feel like this coming week is successful? Because often it's like we think we have to do all the things to be successful, but I would love that reframe instead to be if you got to the end of the week and you reflected back and you're like, every single day this week, or 5 out of 7 days this week, which is more than what I did the previous week, I drank 3 liters of water, or I got in 8,000 steps, which was 2,000 steps more than what I've been getting, or I didn't go to the gym for a month and I've had a hard time getting started. Maybe the win is you went one time. You
Yeah.
went one time and that felt like a win. And so the wins don't have to be, again, these big, grand things. If you're feeling stuck, it's like, what is the one thing you can do? So often people are like, I got to drink 3 liters of water and I have to eat my protein and I got to get in 10,000 steps and I got to get to the gym 5 times and I got to, and so they like have all of this stuff and then we get this paralysis by analysis that happens. And it's so much that we almost get paralyzed of taking action because it feels so hard. And so it's going back to, how can you make this easier for yourself before you make it harder? Because it already feels hard when you're stuck in the mud, as you said. I can't move. This feels really hard. So, how can you make that just a little bit easier? And maybe it's even calling for a lifeline. You're in the mud and you need somebody to hand you a stick so that you can grab hold of it to help pull you out. Like, remembering that you don't have to be alone in it either. This is why we have jobs as coaches, and not even say you have to hire a coach, but maybe that means calling up a friend and saying, like, I'm not in a great place right now. Would you like to go for a walk with me? That might be just like the little catalyst, that little reboot that you need to get your body moving again. Maybe it's a maybe it is that I need to take chicken out of the freezer and that's what I'm going to make tonight for supper and add in an extra serving of vegetables. Maybe that's the win. So often it's just these smaller choices and decisions, and we do those things a little more often and they add up by the end of the week. But it's not what your coach or whoever else feels like is success for you either. You have to tap into, in this moment, what feels like a win or a success for me, and then just be relentless in your pursuit of your consistency around that one thing. I call this the small masteries with my clients. So find your small mastery, work on that craft, and then move on to the next one. And it's okay. It is enough. You're going to tell yourself that that's not enough, because we
Mhm.
don't think we're ever doing enough. But just reminding yourself that in that moment when you're feeling stuck, that is enough, and accept that, get good at it, and then add something else in, once you feel like you're in a little bit of a better place.
Yeah, totally. One step at a time, allowing yourself to be okay with that one step being enough, right? So,
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. Awesome. Well, Meredith, this has been like such a great chat. And just a huge thank you to you for such a good conversation around the messy middle and like that we can still be in it while working towards our goals. And sometimes that means needing to lean on others for support, whether it's coaches, friends, family, but realizing that you can take steps forward no matter what area you're in life, in the journey, right? Um, so, if again, like if something hit home for you and like listening to this, be sure to message us on Instagram. You can find her on Instagram again at the Everyday Health Coach or on Facebook, Meredith Bauman. And I've linked both of those in the show notes, so you can definitely go check that out. And if you loved this episode, definitely go and follow the show, leave a quick review, and maybe you want to share this with someone who needs to hear this, right? Because if we're talking about being in the messy middle, you're feeling it, then there might be someone in your life that also needs to hear this message too. So again, thanks Meredith for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys next week. Until then, take care, stay well, my friends.